In this video, we're going to be taking a look at how some of the new Rise of the Floodborn, Amethyst, and Ruby cards fit into the existing Ruby Amethyst control deck, one of the top tier decks from the first chapter metagame in Disney's Lorcana. Now, the other top tier deck was also Amber Steel, which is what we're facing up against here, but this opponent is actually using a very unique build in the Bodyguard version, and I think that this deck is absolutely fantastic. I'm a huge fan of Musketeers Tabard. Any Bodyguard that gets banished, you get to draw a card, but how do we focus around playing with the new cards? Well, you can see in my hand here, we've got MIM Fox, and this card is going to really boost the potential of this deck. And what you're about to see here is exactly one of the main reasons why, because Simba Bodyguard is still a problem and it deals with a lot of what you have. So you'll notice in Ruby Amethyst Control, I'm also now playing LeFou. You don't normally play that, but it is a good 2-drop to not only ready your opponent's Bodyguard cards, which we could have done if, you know, they had turn 1 Lilo, turn 2 Simba in Bodyguard mode. We could ready up their Simba, use our Archimedes to crash into the Lilo. But we can also protect our own cards. So we quest with the Archimedes, play the LeFou, and ready it up. And LeFou is just a good card in and of itself to restand stuff. But comboed with the MIM, it is an excellent turn 2 play so that you can bounce the LeFou back to hand and reutilize its effect to ready things up when you replay replay the LeFou after you've bounced it back with the MIM Fox. So the opponent takes a long time here, but that's okay. They end up playing a second Simba and a Dinglehopper, so they are very clearly on a Bodyguard strategy that focuses on healing it up, and they're probably playing like the new Rapunzel card to draw cards as they heal, etc. But you can see the utility here. We're going to play MIM Fox, bounce back the LeFou after we've quested with it, so we get utility off of it, and then we quest with the Archimedes and pass turn. Now, the opponent doesn't know that I have a second MIM Fox in hand, but if you have 2 Foxes, you can actually loop them. And I also have a friend, so the reason I quest with the Archimedes here is so that I can maybe bait my opponent into crashing into the Archimedes instead of crashing into the Fox, because if they crash Fox, they lose their Simba too. They end up just questing, and I'm like, that's even better, because now I can sing friends with the damage MIM, play the second MIM, bounce back my first MIM that was damaged, and then just quest. Now they do get the draw off the Tabard, which is a huge problem because all the Bodyguards will now start replacing themselves. But you can see that I took care of both of the Simbas, and I got my LeFou back to hand for free. And I sung friends on the other side for free. So that's how insane this can be when you get the combo rolling off the MIM. But despite all of that, the Musketeers Tabard is such a good card that even though I get all of this advantage off of the beginning here, it sometimes doesn't even make a difference, because what Tabard essentially does here is I'm exerting resources in order to deal with all of these high, defense Bodyguard cards, which are a bit of a problem, and I'm losing resources doing that, right? I'm going to end up playing Maui, taking out the Maximus here, and then the opponent is going to get a free draw off of that. And not only that, I have to worry about Rapunzel, so I have to really try to play around their cards damaging my cards, and then them being able to play Rapunzel. I have to potentially play around Surfer Stitch. I have to be wary of the Grab Your Swords, because as you can see here now, my board is a bit wide, and I have 2 things susceptible to Grab Your Swords in the Archimedes and the LeFou, because I ended up restanding with the LeFou here, so I broke the ability to recycle the LeFou. I'm going to focus on recycling the MIM with my existing MIM in hand. Now my hand looks pretty decent, but I do have to be wary of the Tabard for those reasons as well. Now, again, my opponent's taking a little while here to think through their turns, but that's okay, because you don't want to make a misplay. I play kind of fast, and I do make misplays because of it, but I just don't like waiting around, I guess. So the opponent ends up doing the right play here, I think, in inking their non-Bodyguard, and then replaying the rest of their Bodyguards, because all of these cards will replace themselves. So while it looks like I have an amazing advantage right now, I actually don't, because I have to take out this Maximus, because if I don't, they're just going to end up taking out my stuff anyways, which you could argue I could do, but the Maximus would just take out too many things before it gets removed, so I have to deal with it with my Maui there, and then I just end up questing with everything, which in hindsight is a misplay, because this plays into a Rapunzel. But if I didn't quest with everything and I got Grab Your Swords, as you can see here, I just lose everything for free. When you get to this point in the game, the Musketeers Tabard will definitely out-advantage you, unless you have a Magic Mirror up and you get to late game where you can actually use Magic Mirror each turn. You have enough ink to do that. The Tabard will absolutely just outdraw you here. So with Ruby Amethyst control in this particular matchup, because I do play this Bodyguard deck and I kind of know how it works a little bit, I'm basically going, not necessarily race them, but I'm going to aim for more of a control-oriented matchup here. So you're going to see me drop one of the MIMs because we drew a third one here. I do play 4. I drop one into the Inkwell and just pass turn. Again, I am risking getting Rapunzeled here off this Donald and them drawing 3, which would really put me behind. But they're going to drop Tinkerbell and then just quest for 2. The Bodyguard cards, you know, they are slow. Obviously, they all quest for 1, so it's not too much of a threat. Now, we ink the shield here, opting to keep MIM because, like I said, I'm focused on control in this matchup, and I'm going to lock down the Tinkerbell and the Donald with the Elsa. A little unfortunate that I can't use the pocket watch here because I don't have the extra ink in order to take out the Simba. But that doesn't really matter too much. They're going to quest for 1. And if anything, you know, you might not even want to give them the extra draw by taking out the Simba. But eventually you're going to have to deal with their board if you are, or if they're out questing you, right? So it is a bit of a problem, but at least we were able to lock down 2 of their threats. Now they got 1 card in hand, so there's not too much for them to really think about here. Whatever you draw, if it's a character, you probably just play it. But it is a Hakuna Matata. Wow, almost stumbled that one. And they opt to completely heal up their Donald because they don't want my Elsa crashing into it to take it out. Which, again, is neither here nor there. If it gets taken out, you do draw a card, so it's not necessarily the worst thing. But them having that Tinkerbell lockdown is really nice for me. I do make a misplay here. I should have not attacked into the Simba with the MIM. But I'm like, let me just deal with the opponent's board here. Because, again, I kind of just forgot about the Rapunzel threat. But this setup for me was really nice because on 8 ink, I play the Elsa, then with the Dragonfire and MIM in hand, that's also 8 ink. Next turn, after I quest with the Elsa, play the MIM Fox, bounce back the Elsa, play Dragonfire on the Tinkerbell, and then I'm golden, right? But because I opted to take out the Simba with the MIM, I now gave this opponent the Rapunzel play, which is not great. Yes, they would have probably got it anyways when I ended up requesting with the Elsa and the MIM, but I could have staved it off for 2 turns because replaying the Elsa would have frozen the Bodyguards, meaning they couldn't crash, and then I could have maybe even quested for game. I got to go back and think this through after the video. Maybe if I wouldn't have crashed with the MIM, could I have gone for game by refreezing with the Elsa, right? Giving them no cards in hand, not banishing their Bodyguards, giving them the extra draw, you know, not being able to crash their own Bodyguards, and then obviously not being able to use Rapunzel to heal anything because they're locked down with Elsa a second time around after bouncing it back with the Madame Mim Fox. So because I did that one misplay, you can see how far ahead the opponent is now after me having a really amazing start to the game. That's how bad one misplay can really cost you in this game. Despite that, though, I do have a very powerful quester on board, and the opponent has to answer this Elsa because it is questing for 3. And what's nice about the big Elsa is the new, I think it's a World's Greatest Criminal Mind or something, the new Amber card that banishes a monster or a character with strength 5 or higher does not work on Elsa because she's a 4/6, not a 5/6 or, you know, anything above 5. So they have to deal with her via challenging. They opt to throw their Rapunzel into it, which is interesting, and they reveal why, because they're playing Last Stand, and that will easily take out my Elsa. So the opponent just seems to have all the answers. Now they're going to heal up with the Dinglehopper, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if they shift this Rapunzel into the new one and then Dinglehopper, they get a free draw. If they just have another Rapunzel, they get 3 free draws. If they have another Surfer Stitch, they get 2 free draws. If any of their Bodyguards get banished, they get more free draws. You can just see how crazy this deck is. It is basically like just a new version of Control, but it is dependent upon you seeing a Tabard. So it's not necessarily completely broken, but in this scenario, you can see it looks pretty overwhelming despite us having a pretty strong start, like I mentioned. So this is why I saved the Be Prepared, though, because I knew the opponent was going to likely overextend, and they don't care because they know that they are going to draw 3 if I do Be Prepared. So drawing Friends there, instead of questing with Maleficent, which would have put me at 16, which would have been ideal, I do end up going for the Be Prepared. Ink the Gaston, replay Broom, putting back an Elsa, because Elsa is the most useful tool in this matchup. Ursula as well. But Ursula does get challenged and then, you know, remove 2 damage for Rapunzel to draw 2, like the opponent challenges it if you quest with it. But being such a big body, it's hard to deal with this deck, with the Amber Steel deck, and they basically just need to run multiple bodies into it. So it slows them down, you know, in order to remove your Ursula. But I actually think in this version, I'm not running the Ursula here. The opponent has 6 cards in hand. I have 2. Not too much for them to think about, I would think here. It's they're pretty far ahead. They're going to opt to play Big Tinkerbell and deal 1 damage to my Broom. And I'm like, okay, that's not bad because that's a great target for my Maleficent Dragon since it won't get a draw 1 off the tabard. And then I can threaten going to 18 with the Maleficent Dragon and the Broom. They also opt to play a 3-drop Prince. I think this card is really good. It has Resist 1, Bodyguard, and as a 1/3, and it quests for 2, which is kind of insane. So now we go ahead and drop the Elsa we drew, which is really nice because it just gives us more security for the win. We likely would have won this game anyways because, like I said, we Maleficent Dragon the Tinkerbell, but the Maleficent Dragon is susceptible to the a Criminal's Greatest Mind or whatever that new Amber card is because it has 7 strength. So the Elsa just really secures the win here. Not only does it prevent the opponent from questing for 4, putting them at 16 to match me, but it also allows me to just quest for game next turn because now they can't deal with the Broom unless they have a Grab Your Swords, and they definitely can't deal with the Elsa, which is locking them down for an extra turn here. So they just end up passing, and I was thinking here, and drew Friends, do I play it or what happens? But I just end up questing for game. So GG's to this opponent. They played pretty well. Off of my 1 misplay, they capitalized as they should have. But that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching, guys. Quantum is out.